Xbox has an interesting new partnership with a AAA developer, and Phil Spencer talks about next generation hardware and a whole bunch more. There's a lot here to talk about, so let's get into it. What is going on, everybody? This is Rand L. Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day, and if you guys can do me a big favor, make sure you hit that like button, and please hit that subscribe button. If you're new, we're almost at 90,000 subscribers, and check out the Patreon in the description if you don't mind. Thank you guys so much for checking out today's video. So there's a couple news stories I wanted to touch upon. I thought about making a video earlier in the week about Phil Spencer's interview with iJustine, talking about all different sorts of things, but mainly it was a retread of the things that Phil was talking about during his Wall Street Journal live interview, which I already had covered on Wednesday. So I really wasn't feeling going over and making another video about things that Phil Spencer said, even though some of it is interesting. So even though we're going to talk about some of that stuff, particularly how Phil's already talking about new hardware and talking to first parties about what they would like to see in the future, because who knows what that really means. Are we talking about mid-gen upgrades? Are we talking about the next console generation? I really don't want to talk about the whole Call of Duty, PlayStation, CMA, Activision, Blizzard stuff, as I think right now that has certainly run its course. But talking about new hardware and things that Xbox might be planning on doing in the future could be interesting. So we'll be talking about all those things a little bit later on in the video, because I think this sort of came out of nowhere. Xbox has an interesting partnership that I don't know if anybody saw coming with one of these studios that was sold recently to Embracer, and this has led to a lot of people to come up with some very, very interesting and spicy conspiracy theories that maybe Embracer Group could be holding on to Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal while Microsoft deals with the Activision Blizzard acquisition. And once that deal goes through, well, then Embracer would sell Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal to Xbox. So you might be saying to yourself, well, wait, what are you talking about, Rand? They were just sold to Embracer, and now Embracer's going to sell them to Xbox? Yeah, that's what some people do think, and maybe it's a possibility, but let's talk about the story first. So yesterday, the one and only Jason Schreier tweeted out an article, kind of a scoop regarding Eidos Montreal. He says, Embracer has shut down Omna, which is formerly Square Enix Montreal, which was sold from Square to Embracer, which had just announced its new name just 3 weeks ago. I feel for the people at the studio, because you get sold from Square Enix to Embracer, you're like, all right, we got a new lease on life, we can make new games, new things. You change your name because you can't have Square Enix anymore, and 3 weeks after you do that, Embracer just decides to pull the plug. He goes on to say that some of the staff will move to Eidos Montreal, and that Eidos canceled an unannounced game, but the thing here that I think is worthy of talking about is that Eidos is working with Xbox on games like Fable. Jason goes on to say that Eidos Montreal, which remains intact, canceled the Stranger Things inspired, quote, Kids on Bikes game that was rumored recently. They're now working on 1, a new IP which has been recently rescoped, 2, a new Deus Ex, which is very, very early, and I cannot wait to see. I'm a big, big fan of Deus Ex. And 3, they have co-dev partnerships with Xbox, including Fable. And if you noticed, Jason used the plural form of partnership. So are we thinking here that it's not just Eidos Montreal only working on Fable? They actually might be working on other Xbox titles outside of Fable as well? There's something going on here, because you have Eidos Montreal now working on Playground Games Fable, including, as Jason says here, partnerships, so that potentially might mean other games. And we know that Crystal Dynamics is also working, co-developing on Perfect Dark with the initiative. So to sum it all up, you have two of the studios that Square Enix sold to Embracer, both working on Xbox projects. Now, it is very normal in the video game industry to have more than one developer make a game. If you look at Halo Infinite, lots of different studios and teams worked on that game. If you look at the developers and teams that worked on Last of Us Part 2, you'll see there was 12 different studios. It is very common in today's AAA video game development that you need multiple studios to help build your game. So Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics co-developing a game with Xbox isn't out of the ordinary. In fact, some would say it's actually pretty common. However, considering a lot of people thought that Xbox was going to acquire these studios, have them be first party, so Xbox could have Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, and have them work on Perfect Dark and who knows what else. A lot of people are buying into this conspiracy theory that potentially Embracer bought them so they can flip them to Microsoft for, you know, more money, right? Because they bought them from Square Enix from $300 million. Maybe Embracer's like, hey, once that Activision deal goes through, maybe we can flip them to Xbox for $600 million. I don't really know, but at least that's what people are talking about. I wouldn't necessarily say that is something that potentially could never happen, but it might have to do with the fact that maybe Embracer doesn't want to spend the type of money it would take to really fully fund an Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics. I mean, Jason even said here, they shut one of the studios down and they canceled one of Eidos's projects. Remember, the reason why Square Enix wanted to get rid of these studios is that they cost a lot to run, and their most recent games didn't sell well to offset those costs. So now Embracer has full control, and maybe they just wanted the Tomb Raider IP, the Deus Ex IP, but didn't actually want the devs that made it. And now that they're fully responsible for those studios, they might be perfectly okay with Xbox footing the bill and having them co-develop Xbox games, because that is a team that they don't have to worry about. If Xbox is paying the bills, then Embracer doesn't have to. I don't know what's going to happen from this, but I'm certainly going to keep my eye on it. Now, let's talk about what Phil Spencer said about the future of Xbox in his interview with iJustine. He says that, quote, longer term, we're all in. We're thinking about new hardware. We're thinking about new styles of games, new partnerships, new first-party things that we can go do. We're also spending more time thinking about mobile and what do we mean for mobile players, because we don't really mean anything for mobile players right now. It's just an exciting time. And regarding working with the developers at Xbox's newly acquired studios, Phil said, quote, they're giving a lot of feedback as we are looking right now at future platform stuff and what we might be doing and getting those creators telling us what they wish they could do. As we have ideas about things we might want to try next and how we might incorporate that either into the silicon work we're doing, the hardware work that we're doing, or the service work we're doing, we test it with our first-party teams, but it starts with asking them, what are you thinking about doing next? Phil did go on to say that one thing we've definitely heard loud and clear is it's been too long since we shipped what people would say is a big first-party game. We can have our excuses with COVID and other things, but in the end, I know people invest in our platform and they want to have great games. We're excited about 2023 and we've talked about games that are coming. Those games are tracking well. We're out of what COVID did to the production schedule, but I look at 2023 and there's a great lineup of games coming that I'm excited about. Getting our first real Xbox first-party games out of Bethesda, having them ship Redfall and Starfield will be a lot of fun. Yes, I am sure Phil is very well aware about how people feel about the state of Xbox's first party in 2022 with Starfield and Redfall moved to 2023, and he even used in his quote here, we can have our excuses, you know, hey, COVID screwed a lot of things up and there's some other things, but what people want at the end of the day, what we've been waiting for, what everybody's watching this video has been waiting for, is for great games to come from Xbox's first party from the studios that they started acquiring in 2018. And yes, everybody knows it takes time to make great games. That doesn't happen in 1 year or two. But for a lot of people, it's like, hey, this is taking way too long. So Phil's rightfully excited about 2023. Finally, Starfield and Redfall are coming. We know Forza Motorsport's supposed to come, Minecraft Legends, Diablo 4 will be coming, and that might be a first-party game, but what's coming the second half of 2023? People really want to know what's going on with Avowed and Hellblade 2 and Everwild and State of Decay 3 and all the games that were announced in 2020 but have no idea when they actually might come out. So yes, people are really invested in Xbox. They want to know when they'll be able to play these great games. And yeah, people are excited about 2023, but at the same time, people were excited about 2022, and we know how that ended up. And I don't really want to focus on that part too much because Phil talked in this interview about how they're already thinking about brand new hardware. What can that be? Is that a mid-gen refresh that could potentially release in 2024, 2025? A more powerful Xbox Series X? What would you even call a more powerful Xbox Series X? An Xbox Series X Elite? Maybe an even smaller Series S? Are they talking about prototyping Xbox handhelds? We've seen a lot of cloud-based handheld devices come out, one from Razer and one from Logitech. Could they be talking about that? Phil mentions new styles of games, new partnerships, and new first-party things that they can go do. What could that potentially lead to? I'd like to see a return of 1 versus 100. I don't necessarily know if that's a new style of game, but it's definitely really not a game that is going on right now in the console space. I guess it's really no surprise that Xbox is talking to their first-party teams about things they wish they could do right now but can't, or new styles of games. So when you're planning out for the future, whether it's brand new hardware of a mid-gen refresh variety or a brand new console generation or handheld stuff, it makes sense to talk to your first party. Ask them, what type of games would you like to make in the future? What is preventing you from making that game right now? What sort of things would you like to see in another generation? So I'm not surprised that Phil's already talking about this, saying that they're going to the studios, asking them what they want to see for potential future use of new hardware. Well, I guess that begs the question. What do you want to see from Xbox in the future? Would you like to see in handheld? What about a mid-gen refresh? How powerful would you want to see the next Xbox console? And what would you even call it? And then, of course, you have the whole Eidos Montreal situation. Are they co-developing on multiple games? It's just Fable? What else could they be working on? And do you believe the conspiracy theorists that say Embracer is just going to sell these studios to Microsoft when the ABK deal goes through? Let me know what you think about everything in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, check out the Patreon in the description, share this out on social media, and please hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.